Okay. Hi, welcome to NDE TV. I'm Peggy Robinson. Today's guest is Phillip Siracusa. And how old were you when you had your near-death experience?
Well, first, thanks for having me on your show. I'm intrigued by it because I've been watching YouTube near-death experiences, and yours resonated with me, with my experience. I was 14 years old at the time.
Okay. Wow. That's a lot to comprehend at 14.
It is a lot. And, it goes into the suppressed memory as you're growing up, and you always question, is what was happening to me. And, today I'm 54 years old. And as I look back, I'm like, wow, everything happened for a reason. And this is real.
What caused it?
So it was a routine visit at the dentist, but they found like a cavity, and I have very sensitive teeth. It was my mom, the dentist, and the assistant, and he was pulling away with the pick or whatever he was doing at my teeth. And I was feeling pain, so they gave me nitrous oxide, which we used to call sweet air, and I was breathing it in. Yeah, they call it laughing gas.
Okay.
That's the name for it. And I was still complaining, and they gave me more. And I was born with severe asthma, and it must have triggered something off. And plus, I'm allergic to almost everything. So I went into some kind of not breathing, but not even knowing that I'm not breathing. And I felt myself slowly drifting above myself. And I'm on the ceiling looking down at my mom, the doctor, and the assistant. I'm like, waving, can you see me? Mom, can you see me? It was scary, overwhelming, and yet I didn't know exactly if it was a dream state or if this was actually happening to me. And I was pulled through the ceiling of the doctor's office. I went right up into the sky, and I'm looking down at the building, and then I'm pulled into this wormhole. Like a vacuum cleaner hose, for example, huge. It was huge. It was dark, and I just been sucked right through it. And if I had to describe this speed, it was like thousands of miles an hour going.
Was there sound when you're going?
Not sound, wind force sound. Like you're being pulled through, like if you're on an airplane on the outside of the wing and you're feeling that wind come against you. That's what I was feeling, being pulled through this. And it was very, very long from what I remember. And it had a lot of winds to it, like a lot of circle movements inside of it. And it kept going on and on. I don't know how big this thing was. It was huge, and it was dark, very dark. I felt alone. At that point, I was through my consciousness, I was worried at that point because I wasn't getting out of this thing. And I started to see a pinhole of light. And so again, there's no distance and time within that realm, but if I had to give an example, it was like miles away, I seen a pinhole of light, and I was pulled right to this pinhole of light. And all of a sudden, it's as if a magnificent sky opened up and a tremendous bright white light. And then I took in these emotional feelings like I'm home. Did you want me to finish?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking, did it freeze? I'm thinking, what happened? Did it freeze? Sorry.
So at that point, I started to drift. I wasn't running or walking. I was drifting. I was like floating into this landscape. And this landscape was huge. It was so big that it was trees and perfect grass, perfectly cut grass. Every tree was perfect in diameter. I remember seeing nature for what it really is. And I'm taking it all in through my soul's body. And I feel like I'm home, and I'm enjoying it. I'm loving it. And there's really no words. These are simple words to describe where I was, but it was complete bliss.
What do you mean when you say nature for what it really is? What was you
It means that
experiencing?
the true purity of everything, the true purity of a blade of grass. And it sounds simple, but yet there's a meaning and a feeling behind everything in nature on this other side. Every flower, it's as if you can feel the vibration of the flower, the grass, the roses, the trees. It's as if you're connected, you're one with everything. And I'm drifting through it, and there were colors. This is one of the things that's always stuck out of my mind to this day, is that there were colors I can't describe that we don't have here in the physical world. They don't exist. They were beyond beautiful. I just couldn't describe them. And all of my senses were increased, where I felt like I had more senses on this other side, where it was a form of telepathy, communication between the divine of that side with nature and myself. And one of the things I was also of now this I was like pulled into very slowly was a garden. I call it the garden of love. The garden was not only immense, it was beyond the words of perfection. And when the garden gave me a little bit of a different feeling of enjoyment and happiness. And I remembered this garden. It seems like I remembered it through some kind of a past, that I was here before. And that's why I said in the beginning of the show, I felt like I was home.
So it felt
And there was
familiar.
no thought process of thinking. I didn't have any consciousness of thinking about where I came from, the dentist office, and what was happening to me. That was over. That was gone. It was the new me. It was the soul's rejuvenation of where I am, who I am, and what I'm feeling and seeing on this other side. And I believe that people ask me today, well, what do you call this? In my words, I call it heaven. This other side. That's what I call it, heaven, because it's beyond perfection and beauty and love. The amount of love that you take in is just tremendous. When we love each other in the physical world, we feel it, but the love on the other side, and I keep using the word pureness, is because there's no flaws in the word. There's no underfeeling of questioning true destiny of love that the other side feels for you, the nature, and why you were pulled to that side.
Mm. So you remember everything vividly as when you were 14. I mean, when this happened.
I remember this as if it was yesterday. It's one of the few things I remember at my age, but it's such a feeling. When I think about it, I get chills, and I get a good feeling inside of me, and it kind of keeps me going through this lifetime, knowing that we truly do not die. The physical part of us does, but not the spiritual being of us. I question myself on my thought process of this, but the feeling is so real that it's real. This other side is more real than this world, this earth. It's more real because you have more abilities, more senses. You're taking everything in and you're feeling it for what it really is. Today, you look at nature and you may go to a garden and say beautiful and nice, but you don't feel the vibration of everything. So we're raised to an incredibly high vibration on this side. And the vibration and energy and frequency that we're pulled through is like no other real experience in the physical realm. And I do remember seeing, so I'm about 100 feet, if I had to give an example, hovering over everything, just taking it all in. And I do remember seeing people, many of people, and they all looked great. They looked like they were in an age where their soul fit the perfectness of them. They looked, there were no flaws to them. and they were all happy. And I seen these people playing in the fields, in the garden, and I was able to see there were homes. In a far distance, there were these homes. And it's very similar, but yet 1,000 times better than what we have here in the physical world. And I'm just taking it all in. And again, there was no time, so I don't know how long I was pulled into this, but I will tell you that it's complete bliss and it's joyful. And it came to a point when I seen my grandmother. And my grandmother had died in 1980. And dressed in blue, and I love my grandmother very much. And to see her, and then I see my grandfather. And this is a distance that I'm seeing them. And I see my grandfather, who I've never met because he died before I was born. And he was dressed in this suit with a top hat, with a nice smile, and I'm being pulled to them. And I'm about 10 feet away from them at one point, and I says, "Grandpa," and he goes, "Hello, Sonny." And I smiled, and he smiled, and he turns to the left, and he looks at my grandma, and he goes, "Why is Philip here?" And I was like, "Grandma." And she looks at him, and I was so happy to see them because I've never met my grandfather. And she points her finger at me, and she says, "Go back now." And I says, "Grandma," and I didn't have any thought process through the consciousness. I was pulled right back into this vortex, this tunnel rapidly. Now I'm going backwards and I'm feeling the wind. And it came a point when not only was it total darkness, I was slowing down in the tunnel and I felt lost in this tunnel. And that point, I was scared. I'm like, where am I? What's happening? I don't want to remain here because it's like null and void. There's nothing here but me. So picture you're a soul, it felt like in the universe, and no one can find you, hear you, see you, talk to you. It felt like that. And then again, I'm going to give time in the physical world. It felt like that was for like 20 minutes. And then I was pulled again, going backwards again through this tunnel to the other side again. And then I came backwards, full speed, right into the top of the building, looking at my body. And I said to myself through my thoughts, I don't want to go back in my body. I'm not going back in. And I'm looking at them. They're giving me oxygen. I'm having a hard time breathing, and I did not want to. And I was stuck there because I didn't want to go. And I think that's one of the reasons that I was stuck in this tunnel, is because somehow I knew I didn't want to go back to the body. And I was trying to, through this telepathy feeling and thought process, pull myself back to my grandparents. But I was pulled reverse. And when I looked at my body, I didn't want to go back in. But when the other side says you're going back, you're going back. And I went back and I slipped right into my body, and I'm breathing really hard and heavy. And I'm looking at my mom and the doctor, and I have tears. And I'm like waking up, and I'm sleeping, and I'm waking up, and they brought me to, and it was, from what I understand, a very severe allergic reaction because I'm allergic to everything. And I didn't know at that point, coming back, and now I'm feeling the pain of my teeth, where I was. Like I wasn't in the physical world, I wasn't grasping it. When you're on the other side, you understand everything. You grasp everything.
Mhm.
You know where you are. You know what you feel. You know that this is a place called home / heaven. But when you're pulled back into the physical realm, you don't know what part of you was thinking this and how it happened.
Yeah, especially at 14.
Yes.
Was you able to verbalize right away or in time, but what happened to anybody?
So growing up in the 70s, and I have a Catholic family, and there was no way I was going to bring that up to say that, you know, I went to a place called heaven. I kept it to myself.
And it sounds so grandiose too, for us to say. It
Yes.
sounds like we are saying we are that important, that we are above everything. At least it did for me. To say those words, it felt like I was trying to say I was that spectacular or that important, or, because this doesn't happen to anybody. And to say you did that was, it just felt like it was wrong.
It
It's
was
in
for, yeah,
society.
it was forbidden. I didn't even, I had to live with that for a while in my mind, thinking, where was I? I'm 14 now, so I'm a few years into being a teenager, and I'm really trying to understand it. And days would go where I just kept thinking about this place. And my family owned a home upstate New York, a cabin deep in the woods. And I remember when we would go driving, and we would upstate New York, and we would pass these fields, and I felt this memory coming back of having in the fields. I'm like, wait a second, this is where I was. I was in something like this, but it was a lot more beautiful, and the fields went on for like hundreds of miles in heaven. And I remember saying at one point to my parents, I know these fields. And you kind of get dismissed at that point. They're not really receptive to. It's a teenage story. It's nothing that would come to a realism of what you're saying, but I would feel it. And how I say that everything happens for a reason is that as time went on, certain things would remind me and bring back these memories of a place that I was called in heaven. And one of these things did happen. And this is very important, and I want to stress this. And that's why I want to do these interviews, because I want people to know it's not just my case. There is many cases out there where people say that they've been to the other side. There is another side, I promise you. And maybe people will be skeptical, and they're going through such hard times in this realm that they don't want to believe. But you'll see when you get there. You will see when you get there how beautiful it is, and the perfection of it. When I was in the fields, I remember this, and she was distinctive. Young, she had blonde hair, crystal blue eyes, angelic, and she was running and drifting in the fields towards me. And I knew her, but I didn't know from where. And she's like, "Come on, silly." And she's pulling me in a way, like not by hand, but by vibration through the fields. And I'm feeling this, and we're going, and she's bringing joy into my heart. This is what I believe was an angel without the wings, um, and on the other side. And as she's pulling me, I'm feeling her love for me, like in a way through my mind of consciousness. She's telling me, you're home, silly, you're home." And I felt that. Well, I bring this up because when I was pulled back into my body, again, I didn't know at that age what was happening to me, and like it's the truth behind it. At the age of 16 years old, I remember my mom, and we lived in Staten Island, New York. My mom and my brothers and my sisters, we went for a walk on this long street that we lived on. She just wanted to take a walk, and we're walking, and about a block, as we're walking a block up, to the right side of me was this young, angelic, beautiful girl. And she's looking at me, and I'm like, "You can see me?" And she's like, "Of course I can see you." I was like, "Mom, Mom," I mean, my brothers, "Look, look." But no one could see her. But my older sister did see her. And she says, hi, as if she knew her. And we're walking, and I'm feeling this love that I felt in heaven, the same love that she made me feel on the other side. And as we're walking, she's talking to me telepathically, telling me that I'm going to be there when you get back. Live your journey, live your life. I'm going to be there. Don't worry. Because I was nervous and shaking as I'm seeing her. I was so happy and excited. It was all these emotions coming at once. Well, a week prior to that, I had asked in my mind, God, give me a sign. Was this real? Was I really at home in heaven, your home? Give me a sign. And I have chills now because there was the sign.
What, you had children now? That was the sign that you were given?
No, the sign was that she was there. The girl, the angel from heaven, was put to the physical world with me, walking.
Nobody else saw her?
Yeah, my sister seen her.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It was amazing, incredible.
So now in your adult life, when you look back, what do you make of all this? How do you put it together in your head and able to talk about it and understand it?
Now I talk about it widely because now, as I look back at the reflection of my life, it's like putting a puzzle together. And up until you hit a certain age, you start putting all the pieces together. Because when you're young and going through adolescence and in teenage years, you try to understand and develop yourself and develop your mind. And you're like a sponge taking so much in that sometimes the mind gets clouded because you're trying to, you go to school and sports, and you don't take the time to really bring yourself to those emotions of what happened. Now, when I look back, I look at all the facts and the things that have happened to me and this realm. This angelic being that I'm talking about, that I've seen in heaven and in the physical world, came to me 2 more times in a dream state through a vivid dream of I'm watching, I'm here, I'm waiting.
You think this is your guardian angel?
Most definitely.
Well, you're fortunate you know what she looks like, because most of us feel it. Some of us that feel them, we don't actually usually see them. So you have that advantage.
Oh, she was incredibly beautiful. She looked a mirror image of my age, so 14 at that point. And when she came through in the physical realm, she showed me the same age. And when she came through the dream state, twice in my life, after that point, she looked the same age and very happy, excited, jittery, and letting me feel the love of the other side. And I think that's because of I might have had self-doubt throughout the years that I really go through this existence of another realm. She, I guess, reassured me, this is real. This is real. This is not make believe.
Now you have a radio show.
Yes. So
And
as my life went on, as my life went on, I became a paranormal researcher. I wanted to understand more about spirits, what happened to me, where we go, is there a way of communication? And my wife and I, a couple of years ago, started a radio show called Horsefly Chronicles Radio. And we interview celebrities, people with paranormal experiences that can't be explained, that have these encounters whether it's near-death experiences, whether it's a visit from a grandparent, aunt, uncle, cousin, friend that crossed over, whether they're going to a location that's notoriously haunted because maybe there was a tragedy that happened there. And it's nice to talk to people from around the world because we learn and we validate not only what I've experienced, but that so many people go through similar things in the physical realm of experience, the loved ones coming by through dreams, through a form of consciousness where they're visiting and saying, I'm okay. I'm okay. Live your life and be happy and do the best you can do in this journey.
That's awesome that you're able to do that, that you're able to take, what's something that's happened in the past and help people with that now. Because, a lot of us don't know where to turn or what to do with these experiences.
I consider myself a messenger and a spiritual advisor. I've helped many, many people, and I'm proud of this, through conversations, not take their own lives. People that have no other, they felt like it was over, and I was able to talk to them and reach out to a wide variety and audience, because I believe that people, we become lost here in the physical realm where we don't know, we always question, why does this happen to me? Or if there's so many negative things. And I can tell you that from crossing over and coming back with this message and this gift from God, not only is it that we don't die, yes, the physical, but the soul energy cannot be created nor destroyed. I believe somehow we always were. It's kind of hard to really digest, but that's how I feel 1,000,000%. And making people feel that higher energy and vibration and trying to lift up their spirit in this realm to go forward, because it is so important for people to understand that the darkness may come today, but there's a light that will be shed on you tomorrow. Keep going through. The night will come, but so will the morning. Pull through it. And I've talked to many, many of people, especially on my radio shows, and I give them help, hope, love, faith, and a vision of what I've seen.
Good. That's good. So your wife helps you. That's
Most
awesome.
definitely.
That's awesome. So you can share that together, because most of us are kind of alone in our journey. Even, if we have a spouse that understands, they can only understand so much or be involved so much.
It's important to have support, but I tell people, I leave my email address, email me and tell me what's going on. If you really have a serious issue, let me hear it. This is a personal direct message, and let me see if I can help you.
Would you want to share some of those paranormal cases?
Growing up and having this experience was always a question in my mind. Again, is it real? Is it not real? Is it real? Up until the gift from God of this angelic being coming into the physical realm, that was it. And my older sister seen her, and that was the validation for me. So it's not my mind, it's you're seeing this as well. About 7 years ago, we purchased a home in Easton, Pennsylvania, in an estate neighborhood, beautiful home, not an old home or anything. And within 6 months of living in the home, we began to have paranormal phenomenon happen in the home, where we started to see shadows. And of course, as a hardcore New Yorker, I debunk everything and say it's the lights flickering or the cast of the sun coming through the windows in certain ways. But it was just a little too obvious to everyone in the family at different times that these shadows looked unearthly, and they look like they're almost the shape, not exactly, but almost the shape of a person. So in 2013, I contacted a paranormal team that I seen on television. And I wanted them to come to my home and see if it was psychosomatic, power of thought, or if this is real. And they came to the home. They did about a 7-hour investigation. They brought all their equipment, which I wasn't too familiarized with. And there were recordings, pictures, and what we've seen was apparitions and voices from the other side, as if these spirits somehow are having their own conversations. You know, here's how I explain it. Picture we blow up a balloon, and we're inside of the balloon, the physical realm. And on the outside of the balloon is the spiritual realm. Well, they have a way of coming into our realm through that balloon, where we are narrowed and we can only go so far in our senses, because remember I said in heaven, we have more senses. We have senses of telepathy, and you're seeing through the mind's eye, and you're feeling things through the vibrations. There's so much more that you have on that side. And when you're on this side, where you don't have all that, you know, we have all senses, but it's narrowed to our capabilities. And when we're communicating with these spirits through paranormal investigations at that point, knowing, wow, this is real. There is a communication here. It doesn't happen often. It's very seldom, but when it does happen, the messages that come through, this other side lets you know, we see you, we love you, we can hear you, we can touch you, we're here. It leads me to believe that the consciousness is multidimensional. In some sort of fashion, we give ourselves the physical presence through a form of emotions and feelings that we've created through the soul. When these spirits come through, they communicate a lot through the equipment and through a thought process. Like, I know what she's saying, like a medium would do, like a medium or a psychic would say, this is a message from you from Aunt John, Aunt Jane, or Uncle John. And it goes through this part of the brain where they come through, which we would call telepathy. And then on the equipment, a digital recorder, you can hear the voices, which is fascinating. And you really can't debunk that. It's not like you're turning on a radio and you're looking for stations. These are clear EVPs that are coming from the other side, and they acknowledge us in the physical realm, and a lot of them watch over us. And we sometimes call these things hauntings because we don't understand it. Now, there are true evil hauntings, I will say that, that are negative spirits, but for the most part, there are a lot of good spirits that watch over us in the physical realm.
A digital recording. Your
Yes.
equipment. What are you talking? What picks that up?
A digital recorder.
A digital recorder.
Digital. So back in the day, it was a tape recorder. Now it's a
Oh,
digital recorder.
okay. Okay. And it can pick up
Mhm. Well, I like
spirits.
to ask you. I'm sorry.
And it can pick up the sounds of the spirits in the room, in the house,
Most
like,
definitely.
if they're there. Now, do you have to play it back in a different speed or something, or?
No.
So it's just a matter of having it on at a place where someone believes the spirit is.
You have to have the intention of belief and the want and the intention to want to communicate with the other side. And not all the time you will get a response. It doesn't happen all the time. Sometimes you will get a response, a very intelligent response, and knowing that it's a loved one that's crossed over. Back a couple of years ago, we had a medium come to the home, and she didn't know much about me, and she's by the front door, and she looks at me, and she's talking to somebody, and she goes, your cousin says hello. I'm like, my cousin? She goes, yep. And he used to joke around when he used to see me. He goes, it was a joking thing that only I would know. He goes, "Do you want to slap or something?" As a joke, like an Italian thing. And she said it verbatim, just the way he would say it. I'm like, no way. This is incredible. She's like, yeah, he's here. He's watching you. He comes back and forth to make sure you're okay.
I'm thinking about how when you had your near-death experience, you were observing, the blade of grass, the nature, and you were just this like observer on steroids, it sounds like. And then it seems like when we're here and we're trying to pick up on, the spirit, that it takes intense observation, like is natural on the other side. It is a natural thing. But here we have to put ourselves in that intense observing. Like you say, it takes belief to hear a spirit. And I'm thinking in my head, well, it seems like that the intention is almost like that observation that you had on your side. If that makes any sense to you, I don't know.
The intention is the belief, the intention, and the will to want to communicate with the other side. And you have to be open and receptive to the communication of the spirit realm, and very respectful. On the other side, it's natural. It's who we are, and there is no I have to try to communicate. It's there. It's just right in front of you on the other side. On this side, it takes work. It's like putting one fish in a big lake and casting the reel to try to communicate with this side. But I can tell you that it does happen, and I could promise the listener, yourself, I am sure you've done many of these interviews. I will promise you that the loved ones, our loved ones, do watch over us. They do hear us. And when there's self-doubt, because I've had a lot of self-doubt throughout my life of what I've really experienced, open up the faith in you, up the mind, the consciousness of you, and let it flow in. Just let it take it in. And, one of the best forms of communication with that realm, no cell phone in front of you, no television, no radio, no one in the room, be alone and go put yourself into this meditative state. And just ask for communication of someone you want to speak to, whether it be a grandparent or whoever it is that you want to communicate with. Open yourself up, open every part of you up, and let it come in. And if it doesn't come in right then and there, I promise you that in this dream state, the other side, because we're in our most meditative state when we're dreaming, that they come through because we know that we're relaxed and we're clear now, and we can see sometimes loved ones that have crossed over. And I've seen a couple of friends that have died on 9/11, unfortunately, that were firemen and cops that I was devastated about. And I seen them through the dream state of realism, because there's a dream, and there's a dream, and there's a realism of a second. We're both meeting somewhere on this other realm. And they look good. They look so good. They look so good. One of my friends, he was standing by a tree, and I'm about a mile away from him on this other side, and he's looking at me smiling, and I'm walking over to him, and I was like, Ronnie, you can see me? I always ask, you can see me? He smiles, so he goes, of course I can see you. I was like, you look so good. He goes, of course. How are you? And this is through like the mind now, this form of telepathy. And he made me feel what he was feeling, the pureness of where he is, and the happiness. And there was this glow around him. The aura was energy was glowing, like this yellowish was around his spiritual body. And I felt that, and then he just disappeared. And I woke up out of that the next morning, like, wow, a communication, because I was thinking about him not too long ago, an unfortunate event of how he crossed over. This is the way these spirits communicate. And if it doesn't happen, some people just say, well, they don't dream. There are people that don't remember their dreams. And there are ways to communicate. If you open up yourself through a meditation, you can do that, or you can go through a paranormal experience where you try to record the other side. And I can help and assist people that are open, receptive, and have a strong enough intention to want to communicate. Because you really have to be open to it. If you don't want to and you're closed-minded and the spirit's right in front of you, you're not going to see it because it's not there. You have to really open yourself up, and it's beautiful, it's real, and they're always watching over us. So, throughout my life journey, again, I'm 54 years old, I'm a happy grandfather. I talk about this on other people's shows, on my show, when I interview people that we go on, and they know it because they've experienced some of these things, and there is a form of communication. And when you have self-doubt, ask the other side for help. Return to God. Turn to a higher power. One of the things is that people ask me is, did you see God? Did you see Jesus if you were really in heaven, Philip? I get asked that all the time. And here's my answer. I grew up Catholic. On the other side, no, I did not. And I do believe in God and Jesus, but I did not see him. What I did see and feel was this bright light that went on for infinity of love. I felt like I did not need to see the Creator because the light of God was the Creator.
Well, I mean, the Bible says, yeah, I'm the light. So, I mean, that's the first thing a lot of us see is the light. And I basked in the light. That's what I caught. I was just floating in it. I said, if it was a room, it would be walls, floor, ceiling, but also in the middle. Everything was like light was contained in this room or entryway or.
Yeah, the other side is it's beyond perfection. There are no words for it. It's just.
Yeah. I envy people that can paint and draw and be able to show what they saw, because I try and it's awful scribbles. And I just wish I could, put it on paper and say, this is what this looked like, and this is the next scene. But they can't do it.